Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. My top 12 quarterback rankings for week 1. We are going to go over everything in this video about the top 12 quarterbacks that I have in my projections for this week. This is not a video that is going to be including DraftKings salaries per se, but I kind of use DraftKings scoring when it comes to my projections. So that's what it is based on. The top 12 quarterbacks on my list for week 1 for your fantasy football leagues. Welcome to the Fantasy Football channel. I appreciate you guys being here. This is a little bit of a departure from my usual daily fantasy specific content that we have over on the main channel. So for those of you playing season long, welcome to it. And I wish you the best in your matchups this weekend. So let's get to it. Let's go.
He's a legend.
I have a free promo for you with rotowire.com. Go check them out. Great site. If you've got your fantasy league coming up before Thursday Night Football kicks off, or if you're one of those leagues that drafts after Thursday Night Football, we have a free 2-day all access pass for all Smiz Gang members. So go check it out. Smizzle.tv/rotowire will take you there. It is all access. It's not just for season long football. You can play daily fantasy baseball or anything else that you're playing, daily fantasy golf, or if sports betting is legal in your state, they have great sports betting content as well. So go check them out and support the people that support us. No credit card needed, absolutely no money, free 48 hours, 2 days. Let's start it off at the top, right? I could slow roll you and go from 12 to 1, but I'm not going to do that. We're going to start with the number 1 quarterback on the list, and that's going to be Josh Allen. Allen is a unicorn. He plays Thursday night against the Rams in a ridiculously high totaled game. I'm recording this one before. We're going to have the running backs video that's going to come out on Thursday here on the channel. Wide receivers are going to be on Friday, and tight ends rankings will come out on Saturday. The Bills, 2.5 point favorites over the Rams at 52.5. Road favorites in totals over 50. The quarterbacks have just absolutely crushed. Not like he needs any sort of these statistical anomalies or whatever research that you want. Josh Allen is my QB1 on the season. And based on this matchup, even though the Rams have a good defense, he has far too many weapons. And that island game, first game of the year, we see those things come out, as you're going to hear a couple of times in this video as we move on. But Josh Allen, my number 1 ranked quarterback on the week. If you have him, you're starting him, absolutely no question. At number 2, Patrick Mahomes comes in as my number 2 quarterback on the week. In games where he plays where there's a total of 50 points or more, Patrick Mahomes has averaged 319 yards and 2.7 touchdowns. That's just passing, not including what he does on the ground. So, like, he's just a monster. I know that his receiving room is different this year because there's no Tyreek Hill, but they added enough in there to make it work. And look, he's going to do amazing things, and he's set up for doing that again in week 1. I don't think the Chiefs defense is good enough to keep opponents from scoring, and Arizona's defense is the same way, but both teams have a fantastic offense. And with both teams having that offense and neither team being able to stop, this is a game that could see 60 to 65 real life points, well over and above where the total's at. So again, any of the guys on this list, especially in the top 5, if you have them on your roster, you're starting them. Patrick Mahomes is number 2. Number 3, Jalen Hurts. Now, the interesting thing about Jalen Hurts, last season he averaged 9.1 rushing attempts per game for 51.5 rushing yards and 63% of a touchdown, 0.63 touchdowns per game, 10 touchdowns in 16 games. That basically equates to 8.9 rushing fantasy points per game before he even throws a pass. He has another year as the starter in this offense. He is going to improve in terms of his efficiency, and efficiency, not volumes, what leads to quarterback scoring. And they added A.J. Brown, who's a difference maker in the passing game, who should also increase his efficiency. Devontae Smith moving into his second year. Dallas Goedert, a very good pass catcher at tight end, very viable option, and great pass catching running backs. There is no reason why Jalen Hurts should not see increased efficiency here in 2022 from what he was through the air in 2021. Outperforming what his ADP is, being drafted as like the quarterback 6 in week 1. He's my QB3 on the week. My QB4 is Justin Herbert. Herbert is another guy who's just amazing. In his 4 games against Las Vegas, 300 plus yards in 3 of those 4 games. An absolute smash spot here. One of the highest totals on the week. I believe it's like the 2nd or 3rd highest total on the week. It is the 2nd highest total of the week. Game at 52.5. The Chargers team total is 28. Multiple touchdowns certainly coming into play for him more than probably this week, and should challenge for the 300-yard bonus. if you're playing on DraftKings, if you're playing some daily fantasy. If you're still watching at this point, be sure that you drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell. We're going to have new videos 6 days a week here on the Fantasy Football channel. Lamar Jackson is my number 5 quarterback. For those of you who are familiar with DraftKings scoring or drafted him in your best ball lineups, a chance for a double bonus pretty much every week. He's got a really emerging but still not great defense against him in the New York Jets. Lamar Jackson gives you that same sort of rushing floor, but probably not the same passing upside on a per game basis, at least not this week to me, as Jalen Hurts. The fact that J.K. Dobbins might not play kind of makes me like Lamar Jackson a little bit more for DFS, but for season long, we kind of want him rushing and passing. He is in a really good spot for him to do that this week. Kyler Murray is another player. We talked about Patrick Mahomes. Now look, just like Patrick Mahomes in games that were totaled over 50 points, Kyler Murray, very similar, 313 yards per game in his career games where he's played with a total of 50 plus. So he's in that situation here. Kansas City's defense, again, I think that this is a very likely shootout in week 1. 50, 60, 65 real life points certainly in play. We're before Call of Duty release, which is what we want. We're early in the season. Obviously, he does not have DeAndre Hopkins. If he gets him back, his efficiency will rise. But big splash ability with Rondale Moore, if they actually throw him the ball past the line of scrimmage, with Hollywood Brown coming onto this team as well. The shower narrative fully in play there. And you have the fact that even though AJ Green and Zach Ertz are older, they can still kind of get it done on a game-to-game basis. So plenty of weapons for Kyler, as well as his legs, which are his most fantasy-friendly option, but they do throw deep. And teams that play from behind, they are underdogs in this game, throw the ball about 68% or drop back on 68% of snaps, as opposed to like 52% when you're playing from ahead. So we have that going for us, that they are behind or projected to play from behind for at least part of this game, which could mean ridiculous stats for both Mahomes and Kyler Murray. If you were unaware, we are doing a charity fundraiser on the channel. It's like literally right below me for this entire video, so I have no idea how you couldn't know. We are trying to raise $100,000 on the season. Last year, we did the same. The community raised $35,000 last year. Our goal is for the community, that means you, if you're watching this video, to try and raise $50,000. I will personally match every $10,000 we raise up to $50,000, giving us a total of $100K raised on the season for No Kid Hungry. We get to play this silly game called fantasy football. We get to spend money on daily fantasy or best ball or our season-long leagues. Every single dollar helps. If you have $1 that you can donate, smizzle.tv/charity. If you have $5, if you want to donate more, that's great too. But every single dollar helps. I know that we can get there. So let's be a part of something that's bigger than ourselves. Back to the rankings with number 7, Tom Brady playing on Sunday Night Football. Last season in week 1, he played an island game. It was Thursday Night Football. It was against the Dallas Cowboys. He had 379 yards, 4 touchdowns in week 1 last year. Absolutely absurd. He passed the 300-yard bonus 10 times last year. With the return of Godwin, who looks really favorable at this point, we thought that he might be hobbled early in the season. Odds are looking like he's going to be fine. So a fully functional battle station for Tampa Bay right now. Yeah, their offensive line took a little bit of a hit from where it was last season, you know, with their center retire and everything else that's going around. But like Mike Evans is there. If Godwin is like at 75%, they added Julio Jones, they added Russell Gage. Obviously they lost Gronkowski, but still have a great pass catching back in Leonard Fournette. There's so many paths to success here, especially against the other Carnival defense in the Dallas Cowboys. Total is $50, favored by 1.5. Love Tom Brady this week. My number 8 quarterback, Joe Burrow, beefed up the offensive line. And if you want to look at matchups, as people tend to do, and I do myself as well, you're going to look back at what Joe Burrow did against Pittsburgh last year. And he averaged like 18 fantasy points a game. It was like, man, it wasn't all that much. But like they throttled them 65-20 in those 2 games, 24-1 and 41-10 in the 2 games against the Steelers last year. I'm going to project that the Steelers are probably going to be a little bit more competitive in this game, which would mean that Joe Burrow has to do more through the air. They basically just shut it down. One of those games was over at halftime, pretty much. So like there was no need for him to do anything. Those blowouts hurt his production as opposed to what he would normally do. I'm projecting 21 fantasy points per game for Joe Burrow on the season, which means he's going to have some weeks where he's going to spike and he's going to have some weeks where he's at or below that number, but I'm not projecting this to be an absolute blowout, and nobody is pretty much as well. Bengals favored by 6.5. If they stay under 10, this is going to be a game where they're going to have to throw the ball at least a little bit. 300 yards is in play. Multiple touchdowns also in play for Joe Burrow. Number 9 on my list is Aaron Rodgers. This is a sneaky shootout against the Vikings here. Packers favored by 2. Total is 48. And over the last 3 seasons since 2019, 2020, and 2021, Aaron Rodgers averages 10% more fantasy points in games versus Minnesota than he averages against everybody else in the league. Obviously, he's lost Davante Adams, but there is enough of a receiving core around him. And if you look at the games that he played the last few years as well, without Davante Adams, he actually averaged more fantasy points per game in the games where Davante didn't play versus the games where he did play. I'm not saying that that's going to always be the case, but at least it's encouraging to know that he can operate, this back-to-back 2-time MVP can operate without all worldwide receiver Davante Adams. There's enough left in his tank, and there's enough in that wide receiver room for him to make guys better. He has been an elevator of talent his entire career, and that should continue now. Speaking of Davante Adams, he went to Las Vegas, and that leads me to Derek Carr as my number 10 quarterback on the week. There are underdogs here in a shootout. I love underdog quarterbacks in games that do tend to be a shootout. They're in a perfect weather situation playing in SoFi in Los Angeles. Any dome games also I love in terms of shootouts. SoFi is definitely a fast track. And the Chargers defense, as reported by Field Yates on the Cage Match, could be without their top cornerback in this game, opening things up a little bit more and easing the resistance against Derek Carr. Now, Carr has not thrown a lot of touchdowns in his career on a season, like 21, 23, 25. This could be the year where he tops 30. And if he does that, multiple touchdowns and 300 plus yards in play here in week 1. Number 11 on the list is Dak Prescott. Very simply, you do not run the football against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If that's your game plan, you're not going to win and you're not going to have a good time. If you don't pizza and you don't French fry, you're not going to have a good time. And you definitely cannot French fry against the Tampa Bay Bucs. So they're going to be throwing the ball. Last year in week 1 on that same Thursday Night Football Island game where Tom Brady went bonkers, so did Dak Prescott. 42 of 58 for 403 yards, 3 touchdowns against Tampa. And I will repeat, you do not run the football, at least not effectively, against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And number 12, finishing off the video, Russell Wilson in a revenge game on Monday Night Football. He will be the last guy playing in your season-long matchups, going up against the Seattle Seahawks. I know that the total isn't high, but one of the most efficient quarterbacks of all time getting to square off at his old home field. You got to wonder what the reception is going to be. I'm going to think it's going to be extremely positive. Not his fault that they wouldn't let Russ cook there, but so many weapons around him in Denver that he is going to be able to cook in Mile High. But they're not in Mile High this week. They're in Seattle. He is my number 12 quarterback. Couple guys not making the list. Trey Lance was 13. Obviously, other players that are going to be really popular in daily fantasy who are value plays based on salary, but this is just based on my personal raw projections that I'm using for this week. That's my top 12. Hope you liked it. Look out for the running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends later in the week. There's another video right there.
He's a legend.